Hey, Taco Tuesday fans, this is Christian Brindle.
And I am Glenn Shelton.
We came together and combined our forces to create something special for insurance agents called Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My company, Christian Brindle Insurance Services,
and my company, Lead Heroes,
is here to bring you the latest and greatest news happening in the insurance industry today and eat some tacos while we do it.
If you enjoy the content that we put out on this podcast, feel free to leave us a review or subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes.
Without further ado, let's get into this episode of Taco Tuesday. What up, guys? We're back with another edition of Taco Tuesday. Let's taco about insurance. My name is Christian Brindle.
My name's Glenn Shelton, and I am here with our new sponsor for season 3, you guys, Red Bull. It'll give you wings, and you'll be able to fly.
Someone's going to actually watch this, jump out a window, and then sue us because you said that.
Christian, send that lawsuit straight to Christian. He would love to take care of whatever.
I'm a giver. I'm a giver of all things, including.
I also wanted to mention too, for those of you who are diehard fans, I know there's a lot of you out there. You may have noticed my Red Bull looks different today. Well, I am going to take a second here while I've got my platform. I was drinking sugar-free, and Christian, maybe this is an opinion. I do like to get your opinion on these things, but my body, okay, anytime I start to consume large amounts of fake sweeteners, my body just rejects it. I get massive headaches. I'll feel sick, and 100% is. And when I was consistently drinking the sugar-free Red Bulls, which, by the way, guys, I don't drink Red Bull every single day. I see your judgment out there. That's not, this is a work-related product for me. Put the judgment away. So, to me, I think we just lost our entire viewership, right? I think everyone just closed out of it. They're like, nope, no fake sweeteners for me. But so for me, like long-term fake sweeteners, and I've done this with green tea before too, guys, just horrible for my body, I feel like, and I get sick. So Christian, fake sweeteners, what do you think?
I think they're a tragedy. I think they're disgusting. And I think that they're the enemy of freedom in America and everything else in between.
The liberal agenda is brought to you by Splenda. Let's go.
They're put out there by the New World Order. No, I'm just kidding.
QAnon is being funded through artificial sweeteners. Stay tuned.
And you guys don't even want to know how it links up with Pfizer and how it all connects. I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole, but
you should. The picture behind you. Why don't you lift it off and show them the web you've drawn on the wall? Connects it all. I know that's you, bro.
Connecting the dots and everything like that, and like this is how this connects to this. It's it could be a whole episode in and of itself, you guys. It really could, because and I don't know. I don't even want to get started on the lizard people.
Oof. You mean Mark Zuckerberg? Boom! Got you, Mark.
Mic drop.
That's right. I just called Mark Zuckerberg a lizard on his own platform. Hopefully. Well, watch it. You're going to upload this on the Facebook, and it just immediately terminates your account. Bans
Facebook group is gone. Wiped from the face of the planet. Then I need to grovel at the other Facebook group's feet to let me be a part of it somehow. Be like, guys, throw me a life preserver right now. And
hey, insurance soup. Are you looking for any moderators?
You wouldn't have to pay me. Oh, that's too funny. today we got a topic that I can't believe we haven't talked about yet, to be honest with you. Everything we talked about on this show, that's about client retention, how to keep your customers on the books. And I'm excited about this topic. I'm actually pretty fired up about it.
I'm super excited about this topic. And admittedly, this was my idea. So if you love this, smash the like button and drop a comment that says Glen's a genius right below this video. But I wanted to jump in really fast and say I think we've touched on it. I think we've touched on retention before. So the first question I'm going to start by just grilling Christian here for you guys. We're going to get the good juices out of him here. We're going to squeeze the orange. Okay. Christian, you've been in the industry for squeeze away. You've been in the industry for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
True or false?
I would say true.
Objection. That is not true.
I know an agent that's been in the business for 40 years. Who do you think you are?
The reason I asked that question, when you got into the business, which I believe was close to 10 years ago now, what was the retention like for Medicare, maybe specifically supplement? If you want to break it down, maybe by policy. But I want to start there. Talk to me about what client retention looked like when you first got into the business almost 10 years ago.
It was crazy high, for particularly on MedSup. So when I enter the industry at the tender age of 20, I have hair. I have nice hair.
That's the proof. If anyone's like, how long has Christian been in the industry? Look for the hair pictures, guys. You're like, okay, he's been here for a while.
I posted a picture in Six Figure a couple months ago of a picture of me in year 2, I think, in the business. I'm wearing this like horrifically awful button-down shirt that looks like someone like made it out of curtains or something, like an ugly couch and unmatching tie. It was just it was painful to look at. But so babyface Christian comes in, and with MedSup in particularly, MedSup had a ridiculously high retention rate. If I had to guess on a number at that point in time, I'd say probably 98 to 99% year over year. I think you could expect to retain clients and customers, particularly on MedSup. Medicare Advantage might be a little bit less, but not by much if you're servicing them, of course, and providing good customer service, which obviously is a given. But I think even with that, it probably was like 93 to 95%, if I had to guess.
Yeah. And those were, if you were to ask me the same question, I'd say essentially the same thing. And I know specifically that's the answer because I came into the industry through the life insurance side of the business. Retention, specifically with final expense, is significantly lower than Medicare. And so when I started talking to Medicare agents as a final expense agent, my mind just got blown every time. When I kept hearing over and over, you hear it once, you're like, okay, maybe they're not telling the truth. Maybe they're an anomaly in how they run their business. But then again, as a new agent, I'm asking around, well, what's your retention look like? Admittedly, as a final expense agent, you guys, I probably lost 1 out of 5 policies. Went down sometimes I lost more than that. Sometimes I retained more than that. But overall, my baseline average was about 80% retention, which I'd say for the most part, once I understood what to expect, I was okay with that.
That's what I would have guessed. I would have guessed like 75 to 80 would be what I was kind of picturing in my mind.
And mind you, how you sell that final expense policy makes all the world of different. I do believe there's FE agents who retain 90%, who are just masters at the craft. But I think majority are lower than that, maybe even 70. But the other part of it, though, is a lot of these FE carriers, I don't want to get off into the weeds here, but they have rules around their retention where they will terminate your obviously, if you're writing crap business, that's just wasting their time and energy on the carrier side. If they're having to issue the application, pay you a commission, and then it gets terminated in a month and they have to take the commission back and they're spending all that administrative effort and money, that's not beneficial for anyone at that point. So, I mean, obviously there's agents that do well with it. The call center side and the telephonic side, that's a whole nother animal, right? Especially on the FE side. I mean, I've heard just horror stories, 40, 50% retention. They're losing everybody. So I don't want to get too far off track. So I want to go back to my original question here. Okay. So Christian says about 95%, right? On average for a Medicare client, specifically sub, right? We'll specifically say sub. Okay. Fast forward to today. You write a Medicare client, sub. What would you say you're keeping on average, or maybe the average agent? If you feel like you're not part of the average, what would you say the average retention?
I think we've developed a system and a culture internally to where we can combat some of these problems, for lack of a better explanation, that some other agents run into with retention. I think you could basically provide little to no service on a Medicare client when I came into the business, and you could still keep maybe 90 to 93%. Like if you'd ever talk to them again, you could keep that year over day. I'll talk about us, but I'll also talk about an average agent as well. I'd say you're seeing more, and I think it depends on kind of what kind of clients they're building their book with, right? I will talk to people that will specifically target dual eligible clients. They'll target the Medi people, right? The Medicare, Medicaid eligible folks, the DSNP people. And I've talked to people that their retention looks more like a final expense retention rate. Legitimately, like they'll probably lose 20, 25% a year because their book is 95% DSNPs. Yep. That's why I preach against building your book too heavy on those. I really, really believe that.
Totally agree with that.
We will write them if they come across us, but we don't go out of our way looking for them. It's not my ideal client. So it certainly is going to depend on situations, right? It's going to really, really vary. But I'd say you're seeing probably, if an agent's not providing customer service, it would not surprise me if they're somewhere between 85 to 90% retention right now, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do. For us, I'd say we're probably, I'd have to pull the numbers and see. Usually I look at it at the end of every year, but like last year, I think we were still at like 96, 97% in terms of our own internal book of business retention. But it's certainly more challenging, which I know we're going to get into this, but it's more challenging than probably it's ever been to retain a client. And I know we're going to talk about why, so I won't burst that bubble just quite yet.
I was going to say, you kind of just ruined everything already. You already jumped like you started talking about like systems to keep people from leaving. And I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I asked you a simple question.
An outline.
You went all the way to Z. Well, I'm at like point B here. Like, damn it.
Okay. Well,
no. Okay. So again, I think round numbers to kind of cut through what some of Christian just said there. Let's say it was 90%. Let's say the industry average was like a 90% retention. So like 10 years ago, you sell a SUP policy, you talk to that person one time, you never talk to them again. You probably have a 90% retention at a minimum, maybe higher. Okay. I think now it's probably dropped, and I'm kind of spitballing here, but based on the conversations that I've had, you guys, with CEOs, call centers, major people in the Medicare industry, I'm hearing the R word over and over and over. So I know it's got to be bad. There's got to be bad things going on. But my guess is it's probably dropped about 10%. You could call it a percent per year. That could be it's deflation, retention deflation. There you go.
Deflation. Yeah, I think that there's so many variables too with it, right? Like you look at let's talk about SelectQuote for a second, right? SelectQuote has probably, in my opinion, and I think I don't think it's the controversial thing to say. I think a lot of agents probably feel this way. They've probably used some real questionable tactics over the years to get new members, to get new clients, and they're just trying to meet numbers and things like that. They're not focused on anything else. And you see their stock price right now, you look at their earnings reports, and you see their retention is like probably that. I mean, I don't remember the actual number, but I saw it somewhere in like an article. It was like 30-40% year over date they were losing, like something ridiculous. So they were like 60-70%.
See, really fast, I think a big differentiator there between the number I just said, 80% for a modern retention versus what Christian just mentioned there with one of the biggest Medicare enrollers in the United States, is telephonic versus face-to-face, right? There's no doubt in my mind, anytime it's a virtual interaction, statistically, you're more likely to lose that client without a doubt.
Right. Yeah. I think that's a big piece of the puzzle. I think another thing is everything I've gathered about that particular organization says, and I've had agents come into our office in bulk, right, when we've been looking for agents that worked there. And I hear the same thing from all of them. My Uber driver that took me to the airport yesterday morning, we worked for Select Quote, literally. And I was like, what are the chances? We're talking about it. Everybody tells me the same thing, and it's that they don't care about their members. And I'm not allegedly, I don't want to get sued, but allegedly, that's what I keep hearing. I've never had any personal interaction with them like that, but I just hear it's like you're just trying to push them into a policy, whether it's good or not, right? And they're trying to sell a product in Medicare Advantage all across the country that, and they have very limited knowledge about specific markets, right? Like in Utah, they're always selling the plan that is the least popular because it's popular other places. And they just assume it's popular here. So it's easy for us to pick them off, right? So like I see things as an agency, when we run up against them in a real life situation, that why we're easily taking their clients away. But I mean, I think there's a lot of different factors, but I agree. I think it's the independent part, but I think it's the phone sales and face-to-face part, but I also think an independent brokerage is so much more focused on customer service and retention, and they're not focused on it at all from what it appears.
Well, so I'm thinking business 101 here, right? Anything that gets to mass scale, there's a decrease in quality. Look at the food industry. The biggest food providers use some of the crappiest ingredients to mass produce their products. And essentially what I feel like we're seeing is, early on when the call center space started to really take off, especially with Medicare Advantage, there were those people that came into the industry thinking, oh, if I can just scale this up to 10,000 agents, we're going to make $1 billion, whatever, right? Like they're thinking huge scale. So they did it. They got there. There's several of them. Select Quote's probably just one of them.
Yeah.
God, you've got me paranoid. We're going to get sued now. I'm like, am I allowed to say that? But the decrease in the quality of the person doing the enrollment, the decrease in the quality of trying to even bother retaining these people, the customer service level, the knowledge of the products, all of these individual categories, which if you look at them one by one, is not necessarily a big deal. But when across the board, you're at like a 5 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10, and you're meeting the bare minimum requirements, and you've got a licensed person just sitting in a butt, just a butt in a seat, right? Licensed person. I feel like that's where the chaos happens. And right. GoHealth's the same story. They're at 70 cents a share. They IPO'd and got up to their 52-week high was like $13 a share.
I was thinking the other day about buying a ton of their shares. I don't know, like,
I just talked. So I will say, I just talked to an agency owner yesterday specifically about this, and he was very bullish on, because again, when you look at it from the stock, this is like a total sidebar from the retention conversation. But when you look at it from like a shareholder point of view, I think the numbers looked really bad. And so I think a lot of the shareholders freaked out and sold. But I think if you really know the industry, their baseline book of business and having all that data and information, they're not going to lose long term, right? They'll come back, they'll win, they'll figure it out.
I hate to agree with you because I would love to see them just crash and burn.
Oh, we all would.
But I agree. I mean, I don't know what that looks like particularly, but yeah, I agree. But I think there's so many conversations, right, that need to be had along these lines. I think the main thing that we should have a conversation about is like, because we know it's, I think let's talk about why retention has gone down.
Yes. So let's do two. Let's do like there's two sides of it.
Yeah.
We need to address why we believe retention's continuing to drop. And we also need to address how, as an agent or an agency owner, how can you combat this, increase your retention, retain more clients, and make more money?
Right. Yep, absolutely. So those are the two whales we need to eat, right?
Yes. Start us off.
Bite at a time. So
eat the first whale, bro. Let's go.
All right, let's eat this whale. So
it's an elephant. No one says eat a whale, dude. Like, where are you from? Are you from Alaska? Like, are you an Inuit? Like, what are you saying? No one says eat a whale. It's an elephant. Oh, I'm so done with the show.
All right. Click off credits.
Off, done.
All right, back to eating whales. Oh, I can't get over this. Okay, I'm gonna have a heart attack right now. Okay, so anyway, let's talk about why the retention is going down.
Why is this happening, Christian? Why are people losing more Medicare clients today than they did 10 years ago? What happened? What's the change?
I'm going to use a word that nobody wants to use and nobody wants me to hear me say, but it's facts. Competition. So we're not just, and I'm not saying, the agent down the street on the corner has a little office. I'm talking about competition from massive organizations, several of which we just mentioned. We can throw eHealth in there. The amount of call centers that exist today that do Medicare specifically compared to when I got into the business is ridiculous. It's astronomically more now. That's a big piece of the puzzle. I think, and I think what we're seeing with that is there's more lead vendors than ever too. We talked about the direct mail piece. There's more direct mail vendors than ever, causes all the response rates to go down. The amount of advertising that's going on right now is night and day compared to where it was before. There's more kids playing in the pool, and they're peeing in the pool and things.
I was about to say peeing in the pool than there's ever been.
Yeah,
it's mostly piss at this point. Let's be honest.
So when I got into the business, you could literally take a drink and all you're going to taste is that gross chlorine taste. Okay. Now take a drink and you're drinking piss.
Yeah, you take a cup full and you set it out. It looks like lemonade, guys.
Think about integrity. Right. Integrity.
Really, hang on really fast though, because while we're talking about this, it's crazy because this is a conversation I literally just had yesterday. This was the number that was told to me yesterday. I was told 10 years ago, the total licensed Medicare agent population.
I can only imagine.
What do you get? Before I say, what do you guess? 10 years ago, total Medicare agent in the United States population. What do you think?
30,000.
Wow, incredibly close. I was told 35.
Whoa.
That's impressive. Okay, now what is the number I was told? And again, guys, this could be total hearsay, but I trust this person that told me these numbers and they sound about right. What is the total Medicare agent population today?
200,000, 150,000.
Ooh, you did great. That first answer was great. I was told that it's roughly doubled in the last 10 years, that we went from about 35,000 agents to now there's more than 70,000 agents. That's the numbers I was told. I could be wrong. I don't know exactly how they pull that. Essentially, you'd have to get all that info from the carriers.
Right.
The carriers are the only ones that could really share all that and be like, hey, here's all the agents I have contracted. So I don't know how easy it would be to really tell
or prove that.
or prove that, but it makes sense that, you mentioned the C word, competition. So if there's double the number of insurance agents, there's double the amount of competition. It's that simple, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I first got into the business, I looked at things so differently too. Like when I hear agents, sometimes I think about like independent agents, but I'm sure that number includes people sitting in call centers, right?
Sure.
So when I think of competition, I think like an individual agent's biggest competition. There might be a big shop in your area, right? That does a lot of business locally. That certainly could be looked at as your competition. But I think your biggest competition are those giant behemoth companies that we're talking about. I really do believe that because like there's the Joe Namath commercials. They're the Jimmy J.J. Walker commercials. There's such a push to just overload the consumer, right? In terms of what they're seeing. I think it causes more confusion. I think it riles up a client much more than it did 10 years ago. And I think they're more likely to just jump ship on you because they're getting it everywhere they look, right? They're getting phone calls, they're getting TV commercials every time they turn on the TV. They're seeing it on social media. They're people knocking on their door potentially. They're getting more mail than ever. I think all of that is the reason,
right,
why the retention rate is becoming what it is. Ours hasn't changed that much. We might have changed like 1 or 2% since I started, which I think is a good segue into how maybe an agency can combat this. I wanted to get your thoughts first, and then I'll share my thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, the analogy, to go back to the McDonald's analogy, right? If you are trying to sell a burger and there's a McDonald's in your neighborhood, how do you differentiate yourself from McDonald's? How do you get someone to come to your business instead of going to the easy, quick McDonald's right there?
And keep coming back.
And keep coming back and keep them as a client. So, and I also wanted to say, I agree with, the average agent. I know, and again, my same mindset, I'm like you, when I was a new agent, my thought is the other independent agents around me are my biggest competition. But the reality is, especially today, I think it's the call centers, these behemoth call centers that are dropping tens of millions of dollars on marketing every year.
Yeah.
I think so. First you have to kind of pick apart the McDonald's hamburger. What is it, right? So what are the behemoths doing? Okay, so they're doing tons of advertising. Some of it's misleading. They get the Medicare consumer on the phone. It's a quick one-time conversation, and then they probably never talk to that person ever again until it's time for maybe AEP the next. Maybe it's like a once-a-year blast or something that they're getting. Okay. Honestly, part of me is like, the carriers, these giant behemoths should probably pay us for what we're about to say. Like Select Quote, Go Health. Hey guys, Glenn Shelton, feel free to freaking hire me as a consultant.
My business.
Yeah, I could probably flip your freaking stock price. So just saying. Anyways, so if you understand that part, oh, look at that. McDonald's is right there. So if you understand that process, right? If you understand what the majority of these Medicare recipients are dealing with, one conversation, one person over the phone, and it's probably at an average or most likely a below average agent, someone that's new, inexperienced, doesn't understand the products, doesn't understand Medicare, okay? So once you tear that apart, it's easy to build something that beats that. And I think, again, the average agent, I think if they were to think, well, I can't compete with SelectQuote or eHealth or GoHealth because they're a $1 billion company and I'm just a one agent, Christian, and I might make $50,000 this year and I can't, I'm just going to quit now. Well, no, it's actually the opposite. You're so small, especially if you're selling locally, you can crush the competition here because you can come in, you can say, hey, I'm going to take care of you, not just now, but I'm here locally in your community, or I'm here in your state. I'm telling you over the phone, but I'm here in your state. I'm going to call you once a month. I'm going to call you, every quarter to check in on you. And so I think that to really summarize this, it's touch points.
Yeah.
How often are you touching your clients? If you're only touching them once or once per year, then you've essentially created McDonald's, and you're right next to another McDonald's. If you are touching these clients, not physically, guys, come on, don't physically touch your clients. I'm talking text messages, phone calls. I tell everyone now, I think once a month. If you can do once a month, or once a quarter would be like the minimum. Once a month, and you are a freaking hero. So I'm going to get off my soapbox. What is your opinion on how to combat these giant call centers?
I think what you said was perfectly said, right? I think that is the name of the game. I think in order to do that, I think it's touch points. I think it's availability, right? So like, can your clients call you with a dumb, stupid request that is way like not your job? And can they get help with it?
Yep.
People call into my office literally every single day to order a new ID card. Like probably. So many people just direct them back to the carrier, but it's like, no, we'll do it for you. We'll call into the carrier and we'll do it for you. Most of the carriers will let us. Like just little tiny things like that, they appreciate. I think your level of service matters. I think your touch points are incredibly important, like Glenn was saying. And it doesn't always have to just be you picking up the phone and doing a phone call. Like you can automate a lot of this stuff. Correct. Right? You can automate postcards for their birthday. You can automate emails for their birthday. You can send out you can send out emails, text messages, all these things, and you can completely automate it to where you're not needing to physically text or call everybody. And I think they don't know the difference. They don't know that it's not really you.
Right. But let me stop you. So again, I'm 100%, before I say what I'm about to say, I'm 100% in agreement with everything you just said. You can automate 90% of the touch points can be completely automated, and they make the world of difference in your retention. Now, that being said, so none of these giant call centers are automating touch points? Are you going to tell me Go Health, eHealth? Like, why would they not do it? It's so simple.
I'm sure they are to a certain extent, but I don't think. Okay, let me paint a picture. Let's say you send a monthly newsletter out to your clients and customers, and you're a local agent. You're talking about what's relevant in the area to them. Go Health doesn't know, and they don't know because you see the plans they enroll people on. So like, I'll give you an example. So like, I talked about this earlier in the episode, and I'll just use it as an example. There's a carrier that's green. I won't say their name. In Utah, they have two different networks. I have yet to see a market where they work that way. They have two plans, two completely different networks. One network has all the hospitals in it in our biggest hospital system. The other one doesn't. And these big call centers can't figure that out. So they check the system for this carrier, and they see a doctor in network with plan here, but this plan looks better on paper. They don't know that they're two different networks, so they throw them into this plan. Tell them their doctor's in the network, and they're not. They're pissed.
Right.
Right. Like that, they don't have the knowledge of your market that you have, and it's not even close. Like they have 1% of the knowledge you have about your market. So if they are automating, it's probably useless, garble information that doesn't do anything for them.
Right.
So that's probably, I'm sure they are doing some of that though. I really do believe that.
No, that's a really great point. I mean, like genuinely, I was curious, like why it's so simple to get this software and set it up. Like why wouldn't, but I think you're 100% right. I think again, they're approaching this from scale.
Nationally.
Nationally. So how do you, especially I feel like with seniors too, I mean, not that seniors aren't interested in the national conversation. Of course they are. especially politically. Seniors are like one of the biggest voting blocks politically. Of course, they're interested in some of the national conversation, but I also think there is something to be said from a senior's point of view, where they probably are pretty interested in their local, what's going on. And when I say local, you guys, I don't mean your neighborhood. This could be state local.
Yes.
So I guess the thing would be to build out. So here's the secret sauce then. It would be, even if you're selling nationally, building out local touch points, building out stuff that's talking about relevancy in the neighborhood, in the city, in the state, in the county, and being able to do that legitimately in an authentic way and conveying that to the senior. Because you think about it, how many seniors over the age of 65 or over 70, how many of them are like traveling a bunch? No. They're sitting put, guys. They're staying, unless they're like a snowbird, unless they have two houses and they're traveling back and forth. But
I think it's also like, you being local, you're going to understand certain things that a call center agent for SelectQuote and wherever they are is not going to understand, right? Like an example to that would be, I don't want to say any carrier names. Okay, I'm not going to do it. I'm gonna dodge this. I'm gonna wiggle around it without saying a carrier name. So there's a carrier in Utah that is owned by hospital system. Everybody knows it in Utah. Outside of Utah, probably no one knows it unless I tell them that. Those little kind of details matter, right? Like having that kind of familiarity. Like you're not going to get that with an agent that's in, I don't know where they would be, right? Maybe they could be in Alaska for all we know, right? They're taking calls from all over the country, and they just got off a call from someone in, Tennessee, let's say. Then all of a sudden they're in a call in New York. Then they're in a call in California. Then they're in a call in Massachusetts. Then they're in a call in Kansas. Now they're in a call in Utah. Like their mind's scrambling. Because it's night and day difference all over the place. So like, and things are different locally. Like one thing I really learned that for the very first time when I lived in Florida, when I moved to Florida. Like I was used to a carrier working this way and that way, and it wasn't that way when I went there. And it just kind of like, I had a hard time with it for a while as an agent. Like it flipped me upside down because I had a hard time understanding what to put people on and things like that. Like it is rocky.
I've experienced the same thing. I live right on like the state line border between Oregon and Washington, and I've sold insurance in both states. And it was a very different feeling. And a lot of it is the carriers. But then it's also like the geography, and then like the laws are different. I mean, and it's so hard to keep up with that and to be authentic about knowing that the locality of all of that. So I think there is, and so, again, to kind of drive the point home here, you guys, what you think is your weakness is actually your greatest strength.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. The fact that you're stuck in your local area and you think, well, I can't hit a national scale, I can't compete with Select Health or SelectQuote, whatever, all of the big names, they're all like one letter off from each other. It's the opposite. Talk about how the grocery store down the street just went out of business. Talk about, the mayor in your city and the election. Talk about, that micro stuff that they're probably interested in, that the big call centers would never, ever in a million years have any ideas even going on.
Right. I think that does help. One more piece I'll say, and then I know, I want to be respectful of your time, but
please be respectful.
Please, Robert Kiyosaki said that to Grant Cardone in an interview, and it was lovely. I love influencer beef more than anything. It's my guilty pleasure. And one last thing to think about too is like, think about the turnover rate that these big organizations have with their agents. So how many agents have been there a long time? Probably a very small percentage. So you got to think about that too. A lot of the people that they're putting on the phones are probably fairly inexperienced and maybe not always qualified to be knowledgeable enough to direct these people. Like they're trying to hire at scale. So they're hiring new people like crazy. They're just, it's like a big meat grinder, right?
And didn't you just say, I saw you post when you're doing your CE credits,
Yeah.
12%, only 12% of agents are renewing their license. Is that correct?
Yep. They in the state of Utah, only 12% of agents that get licensed renew it for a second time.
That's insanely low. I mean, I'm not really shocked because again, I already know the failure rate in the first year is extremely high, but man, that's crazy. Like that's disappointing. I'm disappointed in the industry to allow that number to be so low. Like you'd think there would be maybe some state resources trying to keep people active.
And when we talk about things like that, there's people that are like, oh, you shouldn't emphasize, you shouldn't not emphasize, you shouldn't zero in on the negativity of it all. It's like, well, that's bull, because we have to talk about it to solve the problem. You have to address the elephant in the room in order to come up with a solution.
Or the
whale. We have to address the whale in the room.
There's a whale in the room. It should be
the whale in the room.
I kind of feel like, honestly, we just solved world hunger. It's that same feeling. Honestly,
Whales.
I feel like
we have too many whales and too many hungry people.
Feed them. Feed the whales to the hungry people.
Feed those freaking whales.
No, I genuinely think like if eHealth or GoHealth or SelectQuote, any of these giant call centers, if they developed a system that was able to authentically provide content and quality customer service, because it's not just one or the other, there has to be both, it could completely flip their whole business around. And they're so big that trying to make those changes might be hard to impossible. So as a small independent agent or a small agency, you guys can do that. So honestly, that's my final thoughts, you guys. That's my final thoughts on the retention issue. And it's something I'm going to be keeping an eye on. We'll probably have to have a part 2 to this at some point. Christian, final thoughts.
Great episode.
Yeah.
Great topic. Great episode.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with your final thoughts. My final thoughts would be to kind of expand on what Glenn was just saying a second ago. Big companies are slow moving and what you have is you have flexibility, right? So like you can make changes on a dime and they can't. So make sure to use that as your advantage. And I think, that's how you take on Goliath. There's a great video that Patrick Bet-David put out on his YouTube channel, Valuetainment. I'm not promoting PHP, but I like Valuetainment. They're good videos, but that doesn't mean you should get 30% final expense commission just because they make good YouTube videos. Like, please don't do that. And don't and if PBD sees this, don't hate me for saying that. Anyway, but there's a video called How to Take on Goliath in Your Industry. And I've watched it probably like 6 times in the last couple of years. It's a really good video. And it talks about that, right? You have flexibility on your side. You can make changes quicker. You can adapt to industry trends and changes much quicker than a large corporation that has to answer to shareholders. And they can't do anything until they convince 8 million people that they can do it first. And it might not ever get approved. It's like the government getting something done. That's why everything takes so long in the government. So, but yeah, that's my final thoughts, guys.
Love it.
Great episode. Loved it. We might have to do part 2 at some point. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, the only way we'll know about it is if you smash the like button. If you don't, you're basically doing yourself a disservice because this was a great episode and you'll never see another one like it if we don't know that you love it. So let us know. Comment if you liked it as well. Comment if you didn't like it. I'd love to have a dialogue or an argument. I'm not just kidding. No arguments, but comment below. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you're notified when we upload, and make sure to eat lots of tacos and sell lots of insurance. Or
eat whales or eat elephants. Whatever you guys want to eat, I support.
In great excess.
In
Okay.
great excess.
We'll see you next time, guys.